Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to New Muslim Conversations, episode 3. Today's episode, I believe we might be actually dealing with the most important foundational lesson for a Muslim to understand and internalize. So, if you can understand today's lesson and implement it properly in your life, then inshallah you will be moving in the right direction. So there are basically two main points to remember today. Number one, priorities, and number two, balance. Priorities and balance. So since these episodes aren't meant to be overly academic, but more conversational and easy to understand, I wanted to paint a picture of a scenario that can help demonstrate the point I'm trying to make. Say, for example, may Allah protect all of us, that you're in a situation where someone's life is at stake. Say somebody was very badly injured to the point where if they don't get medical attention as soon as possible, they're going to die. So let's say you drive this individual to a hospital. However, there's nowhere for you to park. There's only 5 handicap parking spaces right near the entrance. There's nowhere else for you to park. Now, in this situation, there are basically 2 negative things that are going to happen. One of the 2 is going to happen regardless of what you do. One is you park in this handicapped parking space, even though you don't have, let's say for this situation, you don't have a handicapped parking pass. It's illegal technically for you to actually park there. So if you park there, you will get your friend help and save their life, but you'll be breaking the law. Or you don't park there, you try to go find somewhere else to park, but there's nowhere else for you to go, and as a result, your friend dies. So what do you do? What do you do in a situation like this? Now, obviously, there are priorities. The priority is saving your friend's life. If you weigh the pros and cons of this situation, it's very clear that it's more important for you to park in that space and get your friend the medical attention they need than it is for you to let them die just to park somewhere else where it's technically legal for you to park. Okay, this is a very clear example of, it's not an ideal situation, but the pros and cons are highly outweighed in you doing one thing versus doing the other. So the point is, Islam has a similar approach to the way that we live, the things that we do, and the choices that we make. There are priorities. And the thing about being a new Muslim is that you might believe in Allah, you might believe in the Quran, you might believe in the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but that doesn't mean that you instantly understand all of the priorities, because within Islam there are rulings for any course of action you might take. There are things that are incumbent, obligatory upon you to do. If you don't do them, then you're being sinful. And we're speaking generally here. We're not taking everything into specific context, but these are general rulings. Okay, there are things that if you do them, they are prohibited, and you are sinful if you do it. There are other things that are recommended to do. You don't have to, but they're good if you do. There are things that you should stay away from. They're discouraged. But if you do them, you're not being sinful. And there are things that it doesn't make a difference one way or the other. It's just simply a choice. So everything in our lives is going to fall under a particular ruling. And also there is the, of course, context of, just like we described this other situation, you also have to take context into consideration, Islamically speaking. So sometimes what a new Muslim might do, or somebody who has a lot of zeal, but they don't have a lot of knowledge or wisdom, is to keep this example going, they would run up to the person parking in the handicapped parking space and start yelling and saying, "You can't park here. You're breaking the law. You don't have permission. You don't have a handicapped parking sticker on your car. I'm going to call the police on you." You know, obviously, a person who's doing that, they lack knowledge and wisdom. They're causing so much more harm than good, even though they think they're doing something good. I mean, technically speaking, yeah, this individual parked somewhere they shouldn't have parked. But the fact that this other person who is now screaming and yelling and thinking that they are forbidding evil and enjoining good, they actually, due to their ignorance, are causing more harm than good. They don't understand what they're doing. They don't understand the context of the situation. So it's important that we understand in Islam there are priorities, and we take context into consideration regarding how to act upon those priorities. This is where point number 2 comes into play, and that is balance. Now, how does balance relate to this topic of priorities? Well, some people, they are not balanced. They abuse this concept to try to justify things that are actually unjustifiable. So I'll give you an example. We showed you one extreme about somebody who runs out and starts screaming, "You can't park in this parking space. What are you doing?" That's one extreme. The other extreme is if somebody wants to park in that parking space, they don't have the handicapped pass to park there. It's illegal for them to park there, yet they have no excuse. They have no valid excuse. They don't need to park there because it's an emergency. But rather, there are people who go to the other extreme, who lack that balance, who will say, "Yeah, well, I don't feel like taking an extra 20 steps from that other parking space where it's illegal for me to park, so I'm just going to park here instead." This is why you have to have balance. People might go to either extreme. Islam, at the end of the day, it's all about balance. And this is why you have to refer to people who have sincerity, they have knowledge, and they have wisdom regarding particular rulings in particular specific situations. Because you don't want to find somebody who is at either extreme. You don't want to find somebody who is absolutely void of having knowledge of a situation, and they might take a general ruling, being completely ignorant of the context, and cause more harm than good, and make Islam seem unreasonable due to their lack of true implementation of the religion. But then you have other people who go to the other extreme, who are so laid back about everything, and they try to make excuses to change the religion of Islam, to not have to properly implement it. If there's any sort of sign of any kind of discomfort, any kind of having to do any sort of work at all whatsoever, they try to make justifications that are invalid to work against Islam, to make things permissible when they're actually prohibited, and vice versa. So that is today's lesson. Basically, just keep in mind, in Islam we have priorities, and then we also have to understand that the truth is always balanced when it comes to this religion, when it comes to taking things into consideration, the context of life, how we're living. So that is today's lesson, priorities and balance, and Allah surely knows best. Until next time, Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.